Hi students, today we are going to study about direct and indirect speech, or you can call it as narration. Before I begin with this topic, I would like to tell you one very important thing. Most of the children get confused when they have to do direct and indirect speech or active passive voice. So let's keep these two topics separately and try to understand direct and indirect speech first. You can always remember direct and indirect speech with one keyword, that is back shift of tense. Then you will never get confused with the active passive voice and reported speech. So, backshift of tenses is a key word to remember, that you change the tense in direct and indirect speech, and in the active passive voice, you don't change the tense. So, now before I begin with direct and indirect speech, I want to give you a small example. There are three people, A, B, and C. Now, A said something to B. For example, A said, I am playing with a ball. I have put this in inverted commas. Now, A said something to B. Now, B wants to tell the same thing to C. Now, he has two ways of conveying it. One is a way of direct speech, and the other one is indirect speech. One is indirect speech and the other one is direct speech. Now what is direct speech and what is indirect speech? How can he convey? Now B goes to C and said, A said, I am playing with the ball. So here B used the actual words of the speaker. When the person uses the actual words of the speaker is called as direct speech. But now B has another option of conveying the words. This is called as indirect speech. Now what B does right now, B will convey the same words to C, but will change the words, retaining the same meaning. Let's see how. A said, now I have to remove these inverted commas because that inverted commas represents direct speech. Direct speech means the actual words of the speaker. Whatever A said to B, the same words are conveyed by B to C. That is direct speech. The actual words of the speaker. He is not changing anything. So that is called as direct speech. But now in indirect speech, B will change the words. Now when B will change the words, how will he change? I have to remove the inverted commas. That I will get changed into A. That means he. I am assuming A is a boy. He, am will get changed into was playing with a ball. Full stop. Now, what is the rule behind it? How can he change it? See, B had two options of conveying the words. One is direct speech, wherein he used the actual words of the speaker is called as direct speech. Whatever A said, the same words are conveyed by B to C. But the other way is indirect speech, wherein he is conveying the words of the speaker but changing the words, not the meaning. Okay. Now, what is direct speech? Let's define it. When we talk about direct speech and indirect speech, now I will put it in the simpler terms. Now, direct speech refers to, in direct speech, we use the actual words of the speaker. This is what I just said. Actual words of the speaker. Whatever A said to B, the same words are communicated further to C. Similarly, in indirect speech, we change the words of the speaker but retaining the same meaning. Retaining means keeping the same meaning. Now I'm taking 3 examples for your clarity. Let's proceed further. First example is he says, I am unwell. He will say, I am unwell. He said, I am unwell. Now I want to tell you about what is reporting speech and what is reported speech. In these 3 sentences, you must have noticed by now that these 3 lines I have used the same one for all the 3 sentences. Why? I will tell you further. He says, he will say, he said. These 3 are reporting speech. What do we call this? Reporting speech. And whatever is being conveyed further, this or either if we have a different sentence, these words are called as reported speech. Reporting speech and reported speech. The ones which are in inverted commas are called as reported speech. One, the person who is conveying is reporting speech. Now there are 2 more things. Reporting verb and reported verb. Now this says, will say, said. These are called as reporting, further reporting verbs. Similarly, am, this indicates the present tense. This is called as reported verb. Now, when I change these sentences from direct speech to indirect speech, there are certain rules that we have to follow. And for that rules, it does not matter that it actually matters, I would rather say, that whatever you are doing, that goes according to the rules of the reported speech. For that, you have to remember the 4 main and basic rules for the reported speech. Okay, let me begin with the first rule, rule number 1. Considering these examples of these 3 sentences, here you have seen the reporting verb says, will say, or said. In these cases, if the reporting verb is in present tense or is in the future tense, then we will not change the tense of the reported speech. But if your reporting verb is in the past tense, that means said, then the tense of the reported speech will also be changed. Let us first convert these 3 sentences and then I will come to the rules. He says, as I said, he says, I am unwell. So I will not change the tense of this reported speech. He says will remain same. I have to remove the inverted commas. That I will get changed into again he. Since it was a present tense, I will say he is unwell. Okay. Similarly, he will say. As I said, the reporting verb is in present tense. And if your reporting verb is in the future tense, will say, then also we will not change the tense of the reported speech. I will say, he will say that he is unwell. Full stop. But if your sentence is he said, that means the reporting verb is in the past tense. Then the tense will get changed. I am unwell will get changed into he said that he was. Now, based on these 3 examples, we noticed one thing. that if the reporting verb is in the present tense or future tense, we will not change the tense of the reported speech. So now the first rule is change of tense. So we must know the exceptions to it. And the exception, first exception says, if the reporting speech, if the reporting, if the reporting verb is in present tense or future tense, the tense of the reported speech will not be changed. This is what we did in these two examples. When the reporting verb is in present tense or the reporting verb is in future tense, we did not change the tense of the reported speech. So this is the first rule, considering these two examples. Now the second part of this rule only, change of tense. There is again an exception. The exception says if the reported speech expresses a universal truth or a habitual fact means the action that happens every day or that happens actually. Habitual fact, its tense remain unchanged. How? Let me take an example first. For example, my father said, too many cooks spoil the dish. So now when I will change it into indirect speech, I will write it like, my father said that the sentence of the reported speech will remain same. You will not change the tense here. Too many cooks spoil the dish. So we noticed the two exceptions in the change of tenses. First, if the reporting verb is in the present tense or future tense, the tense of the reported speech will not be changed. In the similar manner, if the reported speech expresses a universal truth, for example, the sun rises in the east. So the sun rises in the east will remain same. You cannot change the tense of this sentence since it is a universal truth. Or a habitual fact, the tense remains unchanged. My father said too many cooks spoil the dish. My father said, in order to remove the inverted commas, I have used that as a conjunction and the rest of the sentence remains same. Now the third category. I am again going back to the same example. He said, I am unwell. What did we notice here? Said. Said being the reporting verb. So reporting verb was in the past tense. When the reporting verb will be in the past tense, then the tense of the reported speech will be changed. Tense of the reported speech will be changed. Now for this we need to understand the rules. It's again a part of rule 1 only. We are classifying it into the other part. Now come to the rule 1 only, the other part. When I talk about, do you remember in the first page I mentioned you have to remember direct and indirect speech with the back shift of tenses. Similarly, when the reporting verb is in the past tense, then the tense of reported speech will be changed. How? Now the back shift of tenses. Present, when we will talk about the back shift of present tense, the back shift will be past tense. But what about the past tense? Where will it go for the back shift? Nowhere. So past tense decide that we will backshift in the perfect tenses of the past tense itself. How? Let's proceed with this chart. But don't feel so nervous that it's a long chart and we need to remember everything. There is a trick to remember this. Now, in this chart, you should not feel nervous that this is the whole chart we have to remember. No, there is a trick to do that, as I mentioned. So now, when I say simple present tense gets shifted to the past tense, the back shift of to past tense. And past tense, where will it back shift? No, nowhere, no place. So they decide that they will shift in the perfect tenses of the past tense itself. How? Let's see. Simple present tense will get shifted into simple past tense. Present continuous, past continuous. Present perfect, back shift to past perfect. Present perfect continuous, back shift to past perfect continuous. Now comes the turn of past tense. Where will they shift? To the perfect tense of the same past tense. Simple past tense will get changed into past perfect. Past continuous will get changed into past perfect continuous. And what will happen with the perfect tenses? No change at all. Past perfect, no change. Past perfect continuous, no change. Future tense will get changed into would. These are all the rules of the tenses. Now if you go through simple present tense. Simple present tense, I've written an example. She said, I write a letter. Now we have to change it into indirect speech. These are direct speech and this is indirect speech. How will you change it? She said that she wrote a letter. In the similar manner, when we talk about present continuous tense, I am writing a letter. And when you will change it, she was writing a letter. So see, when you remember the rules of simple present tense, it's V1 subject plus V1 plus SES, V1 or V1 plus SES plus object. And when it gets to change into simple past tense, subject plus V2 plus object. Remembering everything here and recalling all the rules and then changing direct speech into indirect speech will get a little tedious for the students also to do. So what generally the teachers do, they give you the rules in brief, which you can learn very easily. If you can learn these 13 rules by heart, these 13 rules should be on your tips. If you learn these 13 rules, reported speech will be really easy for you to remember. I promise. And the rule says V1 plus SES. This is the entire conversion of this chart into the simplest form of these rules. How? Let's see a little bit this side also. Simple present tense, the rule is V1 plus SES get changed into V2. Is MR plus V1 plus ING gets changed into was were plus V1 plus ing. The same conversions are mentioned here in short. V1 or V1 plus SES get changed into V2, verb second form. Is MR was were had plus been. V2 had plus V3 has had do does did. Do does did. This is V1 or V1 SES getting changed into V2. Did had done. Did is V2. V2 is getting changed into had plus V3. Will, shall, would. May, might, can, could, must, had to. Would, should, might, or could. There will be no change. If you remember these all rules, 13 rules, I promise reported speech will be really easy for you. Let's proceed to the other rule. Now, when we come to the rule of two, change of place and place and time, the expressions that I am going to write here denote the nearness of time are replaced by the corresponding expression that denotes remoteness or distance. Let's see how. For example, this get changed into that. These get changed into those. Here get changed into there. Now gets changed into then. Today gets changed into that day. Tomorrow gets changed into the next day. Yesterday gets changed into the previous day. Next week get changed into the following week. Last week get changed into the previous week, last week or last year. I say next week or next year. Last week, last year. The previous week. Ago gets changed into before. This is how we can learn the rules of change of place and time. Now let's proceed to rule number 3. Now let's proceed to rule 3, change of pronouns. So if I talk about in a simpler terms, you can learn the rules, but there is a trick also to do it. I will tell you the trick for that. If you want to learn, I gets changed into he, she, me gets changed into him, her, my get changed into again his, her, we gets changed into they, you gets changed into he, she, they, in case of singular, okay, if we are referring for the singular. And if we talk about he, she, his, her, it, they, them, there will be no change in these cases. But there is a rule for that. There is a trick to solve that. Even if you don't want to learn it, there is a trick to do that. S-O-N. S stands for subject. O stands for object. And N stands for no change. If I talk about subject, let's relate it with first person, second person, and third person. First person. If I talk about first person is I, me, we. These are all first person. I'm taking a limited one so that you know. Second person is you. I'm taking limited pronouns here. Third person, he, she, it, they. So if I is mentioned in the reported speech, you will look at the subject. If the subject is Ram, for example, then you will change I into he. If the subject is Geeta, for example, then I will get changed into she. So you have to look. If it is a first person, then you will consider the subject. And if it is a second person, for example, you, then you will consider the object in the reporting speech. And if it is third person, he, she, it, they, then there will be no change. Even if you don't remember these rules, then also this trick will work out for you in case of change of pronouns. Now we will proceed with one formal exercise of conversion of reported speech. Direct speech to indirect speech. Let's proceed. So let's this exercise 1. Change the following sentences into indirect speech. My mother said, I am baking cakes. Let's go very slow with these concepts for better clarity. My mother said. This entire sentence is reporting speech. This is reported speech. Said is reporting verb. Am is reported verb. Now we have to convert it. Okay, we will go slow with the concept. My mother said. Now in order to remove these inverted commas, we will use the conjunction that. I, as I told you, it's a first person. First person gets changed into subject and the subject is mother. So for mother, I will get changed into she. Am. Am gets changed into is, am, are gets changed into was, were. Here we learned the rules. You remember, here we learned the rules in brief. Is, am, are gets changed into was and were. Similarly, here we are changing. Am will get changed into was. She was baking cakes. Easy? Now let's proceed to the second sentence. Rohit said, I went for a movie yesterday. So now reporting speech, you have seen it's a reporting verb. When the reporting verb is in the past tense, we have to change the tense of the reported speech also. So let's proceed. Rohit said, we have to remove the inverted commas, that I will get changed into subject, Rohit. So Rohit, he, we will use he. Now went. Went is V2. V2 gets changed into had plus V3. This was again mentioned in rules in brief. Had plus V3. So we will again change. Had, gone. Go, went, gone. Gone is the third form of the verb. For a movie, now yesterday gets changed into the previous day. Do you remember we had written the rules here? Yesterday gets changed into the previous day. So we will write the previous day. Shruti said, I have completed the project. Now this is reporting speech and this is reported speech. Said is reporting verb and have is reported verb. Let's change. Shruti said that I will get changed into Shruti, she. Has or have gets changed into had. Again as per the rules. She had completed the project. Similarly, let's proceed with this sentence. The police said. Said is again a reporting verb is in the past tense. So we will change the tense of the reported speech. The police said that we gets changed into they. We will get changed into they. That they will get changed into would catch the thief. It's very simple if you remember the rules of all the rules which are mentioned in the previous pages. Mohan said, this is reporting speech. Said is a reporting verb. Now we have to change it into indirect speech. First we will remove the inverted commas. That my will get changed into his. His friend found. Found is V2. V2 gets changed into had plus V3. So had, found. Find, found, found. So found is again V3. Found a new job. Let's proceed to the other sentences. Meena said, I will attend the party tomorrow. Let's proceed. Meena said. Said is a reporting verb which is in the past tense. The tense of the reported speech will also get changed as I stated in rule number 1. Let's proceed. Meena said, as it is, reporting speech I have written as it is. I will remove the inverted commas with the conjunction that. I will get changed into he, she. I will get changed into Meena, subject. She will get changed into would. Attend the party the next day. The next day. Ashish said, that we will remove the inverted commas. I gets changed into he or she. Here Ashish is here, so we will use he. Is, am, are gets changed into was, were. He was listening to the radio. Similarly, Manya said, my friend has lost her puppy. Manya said is a reporting speech. I will write as it is. In order to remove the inverted commas, that My will get changed into her. Her friend has or have get changed into had. Had lost her. Her is again the third person, will not get changed. Had puppy. This is for all. I hope you will be able to solve all the exercise by now. We are left with only the three parts of sentences: interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory types of sentences, which I will be covering in my next video because this is too much for you to remember as of now. So, see you in the part 2 of reported speech for the further three types of sentences which we will cover. Bye bye for now. See you in the next video.